They say small towns hide the darkest secrets, but in Greenwood, our secrets weren't buried. They were right there, on the edge of Pinewood Road, waiting to be uncovered. My name is Ethan Brooks, and I'm a journalist. I've spent years writing human interest stories for our local paper. A neighbor's good deed, the best pumpkin pie at the fall fair, the usual. But in the summer of 2023, I stumbled into a story that turned my understanding of humanity inside out. A story about three couriers who vanished without a trace, and a truth far more horrifying than I could have imagined. Greenwood is the kind of place where nothing bad ever happens, or at least that's what people like to believe. A town of 3,000, tucked between rolling hills and endless farmland, where strangers wave at you on the street and kids ride their bikes until sunset. But in June, the town's facade began to crack. It started with Mark Spencer, a man everyone knew. Mark wasn't just a courier, he was a part of the town's rhythm. You'd see him every morning, whistling as he made his rounds. But one Thursday afternoon, his van was found abandoned on Pinewood Road. The engine was still running, the packages untouched in the back. But Mark, he was gone. I covered the story for the local paper. At first, the police shrugged it off. Maybe he'd had an accident, wandered off, gotten lost. But the woods along Pinewood Road aren't big enough to swallow a man. It didn't make sense. Then, 2 weeks later, Lisa Hargrove disappeared. Lisa was a college student, home for the summer, working part-time as a courier. She vanished under the exact same circumstances. Her truck parked neatly on the shoulder of Pinewood Road, doors open, no sign of a struggle. The town began to panic. Whispers of kidnappings, cults, and even supernatural forces swept through Greenwood like wildfire. By the time old Tom Garrison, a retired postal worker, went missing, Pinewood Road had become a place of fear. People stopped driving it altogether. But for me, the disappearances were more than a headline. They were personal. I knew all three of them, and I couldn't shake the feeling that we were missing something obvious, something right in front of us. It was late one night, a few days after Tom's disappearance, when I found the package on my doorstep. It was small, unmarked, no return address. I hesitated before opening it. Inside, I found an old cassette recorder, dusty and scratched, like it had been sitting in someone's attic for years. My stomach churned as I pressed play. Static filled the room, broken by faint sobbing. Then a voice, "Help us, please. It's so dark. There's a bell and water. Help." It was Lisa. I recognized her voice instantly, but the tape ended abruptly, leaving me with more questions than answers. A bell and water? What could it mean? I spent the night poring over maps of Greenwood, trying to make sense of her words. Then it hit me. The old church on Pinewood Road. Abandoned for decades, it had a bell tower and a creek running behind it. My heart raced as I pieced it together. If Lisa's voice was real, and I had no reason to doubt it, then the church might hold the key to everything. I called Peter, the town's only full-time cop. Peter was a practical man, the kind who didn't believe in ghosts or conspiracy theories, but even he couldn't deny the strangeness of the case. "If you're going to that church," he said, "you're not going alone." The next morning, we drove out together. The church was a relic of another era, its walls streaked with grime and its bell tower leaning slightly, as if bowing under the weight of its own history. The front doors creaked on their hinges as we stepped inside. Dust motes swirled in the light streaming through broken, stained glass. The air was heavy, damp, and carried a faint metallic smell. At first, it seemed empty, but then we saw them. Strange symbols carved into the pews and walls. Spirals, jagged lines, and what looked like crude human figures. Peter frowned. "What the hell is this?" he muttered. I didn't have an answer. Then we found the trap door. It was hidden beneath a rotting carpet near the altar. My pulse quickened as Peter pulled it open, revealing a staircase spiraling into darkness. A cold draft hit us, carrying with it the unmistakable stench of decay. The basement was a labyrinth of narrow corridors, the walls damp and covered in mold. Our flashlights flickered, casting long shadows that danced like phantoms. Then we heard it, a faint, desperate whisper. Over here. We followed the voice to a rusted metal door. Peter forced it open, and there they were, Mark, Lisa, and Tom. They were huddled together, pale and trembling. "He's coming back," Mark whispered. "You have to get us out of here." Before we could ask who, we heard heavy footsteps behind us. It was Jack Turner, the town's former mailman. I remembered him as a quiet, unassuming man, but the person standing before us was unrecognizable. His face was gaunt, his eyes wild. "You took everything from me," he screamed. "The roads were mine, the deliveries were mine, and you replaced me." His voice echoed through the corridors, filled with a venom that sent chills down my spine. Jack had been fired years ago, replaced by younger couriers and automated systems. The job had been his life, his identity. Without it, he had unraveled. He had turned the church into his sanctuary, his prison, his stage for revenge. Peter tried to reason with him, but Jack lunged at us, wielding a rusted pipe. The struggle was chaotic, desperate. In the end, Peter managed to subdue him, but not before Jack screamed one final chilling sentence. "It's not just me, it's the road. The road needs its sacrifices." The captives were rushed to the hospital, weak but alive. Jack was arrested, his twisted motives laid bare for the world to see. But the town never truly recovered. The church was sealed off, declared a crime scene, but rumors persisted, of whispers heard at night, of lights flickering in the bell tower. I tried to put it all behind me, but I couldn't shake Jack's words. Was he just a madman, or was there something more to Pinewood Road? Something older, darker, that demanded its due? I don't know, and I'm not sure I want to. Sometimes the scariest monsters are born not from the supernatural, but from the fragility of the human mind. And sometimes the places they haunt leave scars that never heal. Pinewood Road is one of those places, and it's a story I'll carry with me forever.